Okay, we're going to take a quick look at economics as a social science and some of its first thinkers just to get rolling here in our economics course. Now, economics is one of the social sciences, and the social sciences are new. Sociology probably goes back to the earliest 20th century. Robert Park at the University of Chicago, the Chicago School. Anthropology, you could probably say, we started with Darwin. Same thing with, in many ways, with archaeology. The founders go back to about that period. Political science is a recent science started really in its modern form in the 20th century. You could take it back to Niccolo Machiavelli probably, and at the end of the Middle Ages, some people would say that, but its modern form as a social science, 20th century. Psychology, probably Freud, Carl Jung. Again, we're going back to the 19th and 20th century. And then economics, the same thing. But we could probably take economics back. Its first thinkers probably go a little bit beyond before the modern era. David Ricardo, Robert Malthus, and Adam Smith. So most of these social sciences are based on the theories that go back to the modern founders themselves. So they're a different kind of science than a hard science like biology or botany. Okay, so these three pictures are in underneath the TV in the front of my classroom. They were done by world history students, and they show three different stages of world history. The ancient past, here basically the Middle Ages, the order that was there, the king, the knights, the serfs. The Enlightenment, when society atomized and people were all considered equal, and so there was basically a move from the bottom to push at the top. And then the Industrial Revolution. So in the Middle Ages, it was a barter economy. And in the ancient past, it's always you exchange your skills and goods for someone else's. You were a serf, so you worked the land, you made your own food, you made your own clothes. And so it wasn't a money economy. With the Enlightenment, where basically, people from the bottom rebelled against the existing order. They said, we want to change things. We don't want to be serfs. We want to be free. We want to be equal. We want to get rid of the king. We want to have a say in government. That was the breakup of the old order, and that led to now individual people working for money, no longer a barter economy today. You work for a wage. With that wage, you buy your clothes, you buy your entertainment, you buy your house. So you traded your time basically for money instead of just in exchanging goods like took place in the past. So that's how there's a money system. So the need to study economics because there's this money system. So some of these thinkers from the past I talk about, Thomas Malthus, he said population was going to outgrow the ability of society to grow food. Economics was called the dismal science because Malthus said, we're not going to be able to feed people. He forgot about refrigeration and other things. But this is what he thought, this is how our ability to make food. But, the population's going to go up and people are going to starve like crazy. Of course, he was wrong, but he was an early thinker. David Ricardo talked about the iron law of wages. And the iron law of wages can be illustrated by this chart. Okay, people get high wages. Oh, they have more children. Honey, we're making money. We can have more children. Then when there's more children that grow up in the marketplace, now there's more workers, which means there's lower wages because bosses can be pickier. If there's 100 people for a job, I'm paying 6 cents an hour. If you don't want the job, next. And so wages are lower, so people have fewer children. Honey, we don't have the money. We can't have children. And so when there's a shortage of workers, that leads to higher wages because businesses are competing for the few people in the marketplace, so they've got to pay more money. So now people are making more money again. Oh, honey, we can have more kids. And then the cycle repeats itself. So again, the dismal science, you can't ever get above a basic wage. Adam Smith, probably the key thinker in one school of economics, the basis of the market economy and capitalism are the thoughts of Adam Smith in a book he wrote called The Wealth of Nations in 1776. Smith is the leading voice of capitalist thinking from the free market side. Now, a modern foil to him would be John Maynard Keynes, who was a 20th century British thinker. He came up with a new theory that basically challenged Adam Smith. And Adam Smith had said you don't need government intervention because the market will just take care of itself. The market, people buying and selling, that'll just take care of things. Maynard Keynes says no, there's going to be fluctuations in a market economy like that. There will be periods of boom and then periods of depression, recession, and bust. And so he said the government needs to intervene in the economy to avoid these free market fluctuations. And so he said that going into debt is okay. Keynesian economists are really associated with that. It's okay because he was, thinking at the time of the Great Depression. And so he thought, well, one way to get out is go into debt. Here's a political cartoon of what someone thinks of Keynesian economics. Debt, which Keynes thought could solve things. Here's a sailor, throwing meat into the ocean like that's going to send the sharks away. Once they get full, they'll go away. So the political cartoonist is saying it's ridiculous to think that going into debt is going to help an economy. But that's what Keynes thought. So Adam Smith, his theories again are still studied today. They're the basis for basically free market capitalists. And he taught Adam Smith the invisible hand. This is what was different than Keynes. Smith said that if you just let people buy and sell and don't have any government intervention, out of my selfishness, I might design something and I want to sell it. I'll sell it so I can make money. I'm selfish. Somebody wants to buy this thing. They're being selfish, and that selfishness on each person's part ends up benefiting everybody. The invisible hand. Somehow the market regulates itself, and things, are take care of themselves. And so Milton Friedman from the University of Chicago used Adam Smith's philosophy. A bunch of the economic leaders in Peru in the 1980s followed Milton Friedman and Adam Smith, and they were called the Chicago Boys. And you can see from this chart what happened. Basically, the curve, the gross domestic product of South America and Chile were about the same from the 1900s, World War II, until about the time of the Chicago Boys. And then Chile's economy went way ahead of South America. What did they do different? They got rid of government intervention. They followed Adam Smith and Milton Friedman's idea of the invisible hand. Just let the marketplace sort itself out. You don't need to have government regulation. And that's true today. Basically, those two sides battle in the marketplace today. Adam Smith and John Maynard Keynes. Basically, Trump is following the ideas of Adam Smith here, and when he says tax cuts, he wants to give tax cuts so people can have more money, businesses can have more money. When they have more money now because don't have to pay taxes to the government, they'll spend it, and that'll stimulate the economy. So that's the Adam Smith idea. Okay. The Keynesian ideas by liberals, they say no, that'll lead to selfishness, and that'll lead to the government not having enough money because people will be selfish with their money. So we need to get the government needs to get money. One way is by going into debt, selling bonds, and so the government gets a bunch of money from people that buy bonds from them. Of course, they'll have to pay that money back later, but getting that money now helps stimulate the economy. Quantitative easing, it was called under Barack Obama, and he did it to the tune of over $6 trillion. So two different philosophies, even today, about how our economy is best run. Give people more money, tax cuts, that's the way the economy will bless itself, or give the government more money and let that stimulate the economy. Still being debated today.